Hello, assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And I'm back. We're not going to talk about politics. We're not going to talk about, anything so serious or severe. But we are going to talk about little things that matter in life. We're going to talk about the certain things that I find that people or influencers, they start this trend, this weird ass trend regarding books or regarding anything else, and how people just follow blindly. That is also one thing that I really could never understand. How do people easily get influenced? I mean, as a person who never gets influenced and who in fact rebels against influence, as somebody who resists it, I mean, as somebody who finds it very very really 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 intrusive actually. If somebody's trying to tell me to think a certain way or do a certain, I don't know. I mean, I go against the trend, and I've noticed that I'm actually way ahead of trends in so many things. For example, when I am into something, and people are always like, "Oh, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that?" After a year or two, the whole world is doing it, and I stop doing it. That's the kind of person I am. If I'm trying to write a book about something, and then I suddenly find out that somebody else has written something that is too similar, or even the same subject, or even a very similar premise, I cannot write anymore. If I have a title of a book, and if I do my research, which is something I started doing, because in the beginning when I made up titles of my books, to me they were original titles. Never heard of them anywhere else, never saw them anywhere else. And then suddenly after I published my book, I found out that, oh, there is a more renowned book of the same name. And I was like, why does this have? So this is something that irks me. So that's why I started doing research to make sure that the book title that I now make should not be similar to any other. But unfortunately, as we say in the writing world, nothing is new under the sun. We say it in any other field in the world anyway, as it is, because really nothing is new under the sun. So unfortunately, there is this thing where no matter how much you try to be original, there will be somebody else who has thought of the exact same thing, in the exact same way, and you can't do anything about it. So yeah, there is that. But I mean, this is I like originality. To me, it's everything. It's key, and it's me. So if I find that something I've done or published or written or said is quoted as being done by somebody else, it irks me. It really does. I try not to think about it. I guess that's it's just that's how it happens. Similarly, if somebody has worn something of mine, I don't take it back. I just don't. I feel it's no longer mine. I'm very particular about these things, even though I don't show it. My own family probably has no clue about it, because more than that, I always am averse to hurting other people's feelings, despite the fact that people are never averse to hurting my feelings. But there you are, I'm oversensitive when it comes to others and their feelings, which I'm now stopping myself from being anyway, because I've seen people are very very selfish and they don't give a frack about anybody else's feelings. So I'm like, why am I supposed to be the only one doing that anyway? So I have slowly changed myself. In fact, anyway, resentment and grudges and bitterness has overcome me to such an extent that I have successfully, to a large extent, stopped giving a frack about other people's feelings. And also because my sense of honesty is too brutal, that there are times when to me, honesty is more important than caring about what the other person thinks at the end of the day, especially if it is something that is really 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 important, that it needs to be got out. For example, somebody committing an injustice, or for example an injustice not being addressed, or for example victim bashing, or for example toxicity, which is prevalent in our society globally, not just our country, but it's just a global phenomenon now. So it's basically getting more and more hard to live now. I guess that's what I'm going to say. Keeping everything else in mind, it is very very hard to live now. Anyway, keeping all of that aside, now that the whole background story is addressed, let's just move on to it. For example, okay, so there's thing about, plum lips. Listen, you do realize that these alleged skincare products or lip products, that beauty products that you're using, that are supposed to plump your lips, the only way your lips can get plump is if they're swollen. And they're swollen if they're irritated. And that's not a good thing. Okay? I mean, health wise, gene wise, skin wise, whatever, however wise you want to say, medically speaking, let's put it this way. It is actually not a good thing to irritate any part of your body, right? Irritants is what causes your body to react. It causes your immune system to react. It causes inflammation. It causes, you have fevers, you have temperature, you have inflammation, you have infection. I mean, these are all ways that your body gets ready to, attack any foreign substance that has made your body feel under attack. Okay, let's just put it this way. I know I'm sounding a little more severe, but that is at the end of the day the whole groundwork. Okay, so when you're applying something to your lips to make your lips plump, basically you're applying an irritant. You're applying something that will irritate your lips to the point that it will swell. Okay, that's your lips reacting to something that it does not like. Why would you want to have plump, pouty lips? I don't know. I think the whole point about us as individuals is that we are all different from each other. Instead of celebrating everything that makes us different or makes us us, the more we talk about individuality and about, my body being my body and, it's me and it's not you and mind you. I mean, the more you talk about that, the more you all just want to be uniformed. Have you noticed that? Why do you all want to look like each other? Why do you all want to look the same? In fact, I was beginning to wonder if I had suddenly developed facial blindness, to be honest. Because now even in actors and actresses, I've noticed that sometimes the makeup artists, it's very sometimes that you actually feel as if it's one makeup artist that has worked on multiple actors and actresses in the same show or in the same episode, at least, because you see that they're all contoured in the same way. They all look basically the same. They could pass off for twins, and sometimes you're like, okay, this person looks like this person, why? And then you have 2 to 3 different actors and actresses who work in various different shows and different films, movies and all, and they are made to look exactly the same, that you kind of begin to wonder who's who and you get confused. It's not always a good thing. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not always a good thing, and especially when you do it with the casts in the same show or in the same movie. When you try to apply the exact same makeup technique and the exact same contouring technique and make them practically look like they're twinning or they're siblings, that's, in my opinion, it can get very, especially when it becomes the norm. You see, that's the problem. As I said, the more we try to be different, the more we try to be the same, the more we push ourselves to be and others to be the same, the more uniform we get. Might as well just stay uniform then. At least you will once again learn, have that drive to be different. I don't know, but this is something that is beginning to get to me, because especially, as I said, when you begin to feel that you've developed facial blindness because you can't recognize one actor from the other, that means that something is going very, very wrong. Okay? Similarly, it's not just the actors and actresses. As you see so many people now on you. Sorry, I was interrupted again, but okay, where was I? Oh God, just forget it. I guess you got the meaning anyway, what I'm trying to say, right? Now, let's just move on to, yeah, I was saying that, similarly, when you look at these influencers, TikTokers and all, you really can't sometimes recognize them. You don't know who's who, because they're all trying to look the same. Why are you trying to look the same? I don't get it. I really don't get it. Again, then, number three, what suits one person doesn't necessarily suit another person. Okay, I may like something, I may like to recommend it to somebody, but it might not be your cup of tea. Why would you want to force yourself to make it your cup of tea just because somebody who's supposed to be an influencer is telling you that? Listen, as I told you once in one of my previous podcasts, I knew that I had it in me to manipulate people to such an extent that I would actually make them think that my idea is actually their idea. So much so that they will fight me on that idea if I even try to go against it. You understand? And they will go around making it, clear that it's their idea, and they will do it. And I've always used it for good, mind you. I've always tried to use it for good, for making people to take the right decisions in their lives so that they can get their shit together. Okay, but you know what, after some time I even stopped doing that, because I was like, are people seriously so easily influenced? you know why are they so, why can't they think for themselves? Why can't people think for themselves? So I kind of stopped, because I don't like being influenced, as I said, and because I guess I just don't get influenced, so there's no question about like or not like. But I don't like the idea of influencing people to do stuff they wouldn't otherwise do. You understand? And in my life, the only times I've ever done it, was when I was, as I said, trying to help people to get their shit together and making sure that they did the right thing to get their life back on track. But as I said, I even stopped doing that. Now, even if people come to me and, say, oh, what should I do and all, I draw a blank most of the time. I'm like, because I don't know. Listen, the point is, you don't know the other person's situation. And I was really young when I used to help people or influence people to take the right decisions. I myself was barely a teenager. And I stopped doing that when I hit 20s, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. When I realized that, and even now, sometimes when unconsciously I do that, which is like once in 5 years or 3 years, I feel really bad about it, despite the fact that, as I said, I'm doing it to help somebody. But you know what? As I said, why should I? I always believe that people have brains and people use their brains, and we should give them the benefit of that doubt, despite the fact that I get disappointed a lot of times by that fact. Or I shouldn't say I get disappointed, because I do know that people are essentially deliberately stupid. Yeah, they're obtuse. And this is deliberate. That's what irks me again. It's not that people are stupid. No. People have deliberately become stupid. They're selectively stupid. You know what I mean? It's like how you have those people who are selectively deaf, like our mothers. Universally, I think it's a known fact, our mothers have selective hearing, right? They are selectively deaf. They will hear those words that you wouldn't expect them to, even if you're whispering them. But you can scream blue murder in front of them, and they will still say, "Huh? Huh? What did you say? What? Huh? Huh?" There you are. So it's that. People are selectively stupid, in my opinion. And I've realized that I don't have time for that anymore. Seriously, I do not. I wasted years of my life trying to put such people back on track. But I've noticed that if you're deliberately obtuse and deliberately stupid, I cannot waste my time and my breath fixing you. So I stopped that altogether. So again, I'm trying to say, why are you people easily getting influenced by these alleged influencers? If they like self-help books, everybody wants to read a self-help book. I'm sorry, I hate self-help books. They're not my cup of tea. Okay, I just don't like. Again, I guess it's because it ends up being the same thing, where you're telling people how to do the things that or what to do, or how to live their lives, or how to think, and which essentially is a very good idea. And I think many people feel the need that they need it, because, as I said, people have shut down their brains to this extent that they have become obtuse and stupid, deliberately so I guess they really need spoon feeding to tell them some of the most commonsensical things on earth. So I have no problems with that. And but when people rave, and that's another thing, I've noticed that influencers and politicians and they're always raving about self-help books. I guess to them, these kind of books have more substance as opposed to fiction. Is that it? Maybe. Let me tell you, You know how people find it very funny, hilarious, pathetic, and even idiotic, that one would quote dialogues from movies and dramas, and yet we do it all the time, by the way. Let me tell you, I'm pretty much sure that in the beginning, when books became the norm, when books newly came into this every people's lives, and if they would quote from books, they would also be considered ridiculous. But now we actually think that it is the essence of knowledge and wisdom when we quote from books, but it is stupid and pathetic and ridiculous when we quote from movies and TV series. But technically, it's the same. In both cases, you're dealing with literature in different formats. In both cases, you're dealing with fiction. In both cases, you're dealing with writers who are bringing out that message. In books, it's in written form, and in audiovisuals, like multimedia formats, it comes out as human contact, as in you're literally listening to a human being saying it to another human being, which makes it more personal, it makes it more subjective. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, at the end of the day, despite the fact that we may think that that person is ridiculous or shallow or doesn't have a brain because they're quoting a dialogue from a popular TV show, but actually, sorry, but actually no, because the way you would see it is the same way maybe in the beginning of time when people started, in the beginning of literature time, when people quoted from books, they were considered ridiculous and shallow and not actual original thinkers or philosophers, because in those days you would think that to quote a philosopher would be, much more adequate. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's what I'm just saying. Maybe that's why people think that, oh, we can rave about self-help books, but I'm sorry, never read them, cannot read them. The autobiographicals, even, although I have read 2 to 3 of them, or maybe 4. But you do know that these autobiographicals of politicians or businessmen or entrepreneurs or whatever are not even written by themselves. You do know that, right? These are ghostwriters. So anyway, the point is everybody comes out with a book. Every politician, every former president, every former prime minister has to come out with a book. Every former army general has to come out with a book. Every dictator has to come out with a book. It's just like how everybody's a PhD, but nobody knows jack shit. It's just the same thing, okay? To me, it's all the same. Similarly, self-help books. Yeah, sorry, not my cup of tea. No offense to anybody. As I said, if you feel that they do things for you, go ahead. But if you're just going and reading them because popular people or famous people or influencers are raving about them, I'm sorry. You might as well just go and read what interests you. I'm a writer, and from the way I talk, I'm sure you people probably can think that, oh, I'm supposed to be one of those really boring-assed people, But guess what? I write fiction. I don't write boring-assed books. I write thrillers, and I write crime, and I write mysteries, and I write, clean romance. I mean, I don't write romance. Now, that's another thing, I love to read a good romance, by the way, but I don't write romance. I don't do romance. Okay, not my cup of tea when it comes to writing it. What I really enjoy writing is fast-paced, action-packed thrillers. Okay, I love those. Okay, in scripts, when I would write dramas and all, I liked writing just light stuff that everybody can enjoy. But again, never comedy. No, there will always be some hardcore stuff that has to be put in through, because as I said, as writers, you see, this is our responsibility. Our responsibility is to pass on a message or something of learning to our audience, whether it's in the form of books or it's in the form of audiovisuals. To us, it's all the same. You understand? It's our responsibility to pass out some truth or some education, some moral, some value to the audience. You understand? Some learning experience there. So yeah, I mean, I would never do a self-help book. I can't bear the things, to be honest. As I said, maybe it's because of my natural aversion to following trends. For example, okay, Farsi shalwar. Everybody's raving about Farsi shalwar. Well, guess what? I have Farsi shalwars. I have really old Farsi shalwars, and I've been wearing them at home because they're very comfortable. They're made of lawn, and they're huge. The whole point of, by the way, people tend to say that the whole point of a Farsi shalwar is that it's the hem lines, the bottom cuffs, they're supposed to be huge, they're supposed to be wide. No, actually, if in case you've forgotten, but even until the 1990s, all shalwars had a proper hemline that was wide, and you had designs on them. All the shalwars did, regardless of what their shape and size was. Okay, it's just that later on, laziness came upon everybody in the name of minimalism and in the name of simplicity. But it was basically just lazy ass, attitude of the tailors, I guess, where they just started shrinking the size of the hemlines of the shalwars. And then trousers came back into fashion again. Shalwars and trousers were always a part of our dress code. Our mothers wore them, our grandmothers wore them. That's not the problem here. The problem is the different styling that, every time recycled back and again. So what is basically happening is that the fresh shalwars that people are trying to produce are the same shalwars that our mothers used to wear, which were those huge ass shalwars. And as I said, all shalwars in those times had really wide hemlines, really wide. Why am I saying hemlines? I mean, the bottom hem line, the what do we call the damn thing? How can I forget what we call it? But you do understand, right? The bottom of our shalwars, the bottom edges, they always used to be very wide. Okay, the bukram inside used to be really wide. It used to be wide. Okay, but now they're thinking that, oh, Farsi shalwar is supposed to be really long, really big, and it should have really wide, panchas or ends, right? And I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, okay, I've had a Farsi, as I said, I've been wearing a Farsi shalwar for years at home every summers because it is the biggest shalwar I've got, and it doesn't touch my skin, and that's how I like my clothes in summers especially. And I remember that just 2 years ago, somebody was like, oh, why do you wear this? Oh, what is this and that? And now everybody wants to wear a Farsi shalwar. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't follow trends. I wear what I am comfortable in, and I wear what suits me, by the way. I think that that's the whole point of fashion. The whole point of fashion or being fashionable or being stylish is you wear something that makes you look awesome. It gives you that oomph. Okay, and then it turns people's heads and they're like, oh wow, and then they're like, and then people say, oh, I want to do that too. But again, you see, that's the point. You're supposed to be doing you. You're supposed to be wearing stuff that suits you, your body type, your structure, you're supposed to wear makeup that you enjoy wearing, and it should suit you, and you should feel happy and nice in it, and you should feel confident in it. When you exude that confidence, when you're comfortable with your skin, basically, that is when people's heads turn. Okay, if that's what you want, basically, that is when people will tell you, oh, you look amazing. You will never look amazing when you're not comfortable, although you may think you do. But you see, that discomfort, it comes through at one point, So yeah, I mean, that's basically what I'm trying to say. Don't follow trends. You do you. And another thing, don't over or under consume. Buy only what you need when you need it. Don't declutter because the influencers are telling you to declutter. Keep what you know you use and what you know you like. Give only that stuff that you really know you will never use. Give that away. Don't declutter only to add more stuff into your wardrobe. Might as well just keep using what you already have. That is responsible consumerism. That is being environmentally responsible, by the way. That is being more aware, more educated, more efficient financially, as well as socially, as well as environmentally, as well as mentally. And it's in our religion too. In our religion, when the prophet keeps on saying the perfection of our religion is balancing everything. It's balancing religion with this world. It's balancing everything within this world. It's balancing yourself. It's balancing your wants against your needs. It's balancing material benefits against spiritual benefits. It's balance. When you learn to balance, you've got it. So just do what you want to do, what makes you happy, and do it responsibly. That's it. Read what you want to read, okay? Don't force yourself to be something you're not. I mean, it's good if you're trying to explore different things. As I said, as an avid reader, I have read everything. I have read and enjoyed everything, okay? As I said, I've even read autobiographicals, even though I don't like them. I've read them with interest, and I have read all these socialist, communist, Marxists, Leninist, books out there because they were part of my dad's library. And they were part of all his generation's libraries. I mean, all our dads had that. And then, I've read all the other literature that came my way, Russian and German and French and, Nigerian. I mean, because that's where I'm from. And then, and then I've read Urdu literature too, and I love our classic Urdu literature, and I think we're not producing it as much anymore. But then I guess nobody is, except for the Western world, where they're churning out these so-called bestsellers, which are rubbish, I'm sorry to say, which actually makes you think that the New York Times bestsellers is actually just they're bought out or something, because they're rubbish. And there's so many absolutely lovely books out there that are underrated, and they're not even on your radar because Amazon just shoves it under the rug, in its algorithm, and nobody talks about them, because they didn't make to the bestseller list when actually they deserve to be in the bestseller list, to be honest. So there is all that. Well, I mean, this is just my thoughts, for now. And then now I'll also come to lip balms, by the way. Now, here's about lip balms. I actually finally got the energy to get off my butt, and to make a lip balm at the end of the day. And I made, the honey coconut oil one. And first I just was like, I'm not adding lemon and brown sugar or whatever. Why do I even need to? Just honey and lemon will do it. And I did add honey and lemon. And I love, sorry, not honey and lemon. What's wrong with me? Honey and coconut oil. Okay, just honey and coconut oil. And I actually loved it, I loved it as tapping a little bit of it under my eye, and as putting it on my lips. Actually, ever since I made the lip balms 2 days ago, or was it yesterday? I've been constantly making a little bit of it, working on. I made it 2 days ago or yesterday, and then today I made another batch to put in my empty old chapstick capsule thingy. And the one I made today is where I decided, okay, you know what, let me do what everybody's always saying, that it's better to add lemon and brown sugar. Although, really, brown sugar is supposed to be when you're making a sort of a scrub, an exfoliating sort of a lip balm, where you can scrub your lips or something. But I put very little brown sugar. See, again, here it is. I just did what I wanted to do. Everybody's like, put 1 teaspoon of this and half teaspoon of that and all. I just made 1 teaspoon of coconut oil, equal parts honey, quarter teaspoon of, or even less maybe, quarter teaspoon of brown sugar, and 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. Mixed it all up. Before that, what I made is and I put that in my chapstick container. This is what I made today. Okay, and I really do believe somehow, I don't know, I may be wrong, but as of yet, what I think is that the first one that I made, which was only honey and coconut oil, I think that somehow just worked better. I don't know. I just personally felt that really did the job, and I still have it. That's in a separate container, and this is in a separate container. Although, to be honest, because this was a little more than could fit in the stick, I added the rest of it on top of the original honey and coconut balm. So now I've got a grand mixture in that one container. But still, point being, As I said, since I made my own lip balm, I've actually found myself reaching for it more and more, as opposed to the ones that I've had for years. Hardly reach them. Also, I've noticed that the ones that claim to do wonders, they just end up sort of tearing my lips out more and more. Whereas the honey and coconut lip balm that I made actually smooths my lips out, and it makes them, it at least it doesn't chap them. In other words, I don't have, new layers to peel off of my lips. And my lips are basically, they became pigmented due to dehydration. I'm naturally dehydrated. I try to drink a lot of water nowadays because it's so freaking hot that you automatically reach for water. But to be honest, I am naturally dehydrated, and I feel that drinking too much water, like how everybody says, doesn't actually help my body, to be honest. And see, that's what I'm trying to say. We all have our own certain unique eccentricities within our bodies that only we know. So what applies to others don't apply to us. For example, to me, a whole jug of water, yeah, that's not going to do me any wonders. Never did. So I've noticed actually that the way I am, with the amount of water that I normally take, I'm fine. If I try to drink more than that, I'm not fine. So it means that if that's why I call myself naturally dehydrated. It means that I'm okay. What to others may look as dehydrated, for me is probably just as much as my body can handle, you know? So it's just like that. It's just like how my body has a certain weight it can handle, and it's fine with it. And even though, according medically speaking, I'm underweight, but actually where my body is concerned, I'm in perfect weight. And when I reached the medically perfect weight to my body, I was overweight and I was very uncomfortable. And it just took 3 days. It took me years to gain that weight, but literally 3 days, and my body shed all of that weight. Believe it or not, but I lost 10 Ks in 3 days. It took me so many years to gain those 10 Ks, but I lost them in just 3 days. Now, to be honest, I lost them because I went into deep depression. Now, that's another thing. Whenever I go into deep depression, I always lose weight, and I shed weight in bulk within hours. Okay, because I have a naturally fast metabolism, I guess. I don't know. If I don't eat for 2 days, I will lose 5K, 5 kg. Okay, it's just like that. If I don't eat for 3 days, I'll lose minimum 10 kg. And that's what happened. I went into depression, and I was just not in a good place. Sorry. And I just lost weight. And also, when I'm uncomfortable, I can't eat. I'm most of the time uncomfortable. I'm mentally uncomfortable. I am generally uncomfortable in the environment in which I'm placed for the past decade and a half, to be honest. That's another reason. When I'm very comfortable, then I'm happy, I'm mentally happy, content. That's when I write. That's when I eat. That's when I want to eat something. But to be honest, since I've come to this country, in this country, I'm always uncomfortable. I don't know, as I said. And when I'm uncomfortable, I just don't feel like eating. And then it's too hot. When it's too hot, I can't eat anyway. So in the summers, expect me to, not eat anyway. In the summers here in Pakistan especially, you just want something cold all the time, which is again not good for your body, by the way. No matter how hot it is, eating and drinking very, very cold stuff is actually not good for your body. It's not good for your metabolism. It's not good for your digestion. But there you are. So, yeah, I mean, these are just little things. The reason I'm sharing these things with you is just to not to say that I'm not an amazing person, by the way. I don't have amazing talents. I'm just trying to tell you that, like everybody else, I've got my quirks, and what suits me doesn't suit you. Similarly, what suits these influencers doesn't necessarily suit you. Every one of us, we are individuals for a reason. Our fingerprints do not match each other's for a reason. So we just need to know what it is that our body needs, what it is that we need, what it is that our skin needs, what it is that our hormones are all about. And you don't have to go to a doctor to do that, to be honest. If you take the time to observe your own self, give yourself some time, observe yourself, and you will automatically know what exactly it is that helps your body, what is it that damages your body, what it is that suits you, what it is that doesn't suit you. And on a superficial level, your clothes, your jewelry, your makeup, your skincare, again, what suits you, what doesn't suit you. I personally believe, instead of slathering chemicals, although to be honest, as I said, I'm pretty lazy assed myself when it comes to these things, and I would much rather just buy a cream than make one. I get that. I really do. But I think that if once in a blue moon we can get off our butts and go back to our roots of making homemade skincare and homemade remedies, we'll be better off. Because first, we know exactly what we're putting on our faces or on our skin, or what exactly it is that we're eating or drinking. And second, we know that it's, to a large extent, it's not synthetic, it's not synthesized. There are no chemicals that can aggravate us in any way. In other words, we just know what it is that we're putting in ourselves or on ourselves. And that is it's, I know one can argue that even if we buy half the stuff, we don't know if it's really pure or not, right? Yeah, I get that. But if we know where to get the pure stuff, why not? At least we know where we can get the pure stuff, which haberdasher sells that stuff that we need, right? So yeah. Well, I mean, this is just me rambling on, but I mean, it's not just rambling as such. I mean, I'm just trying to say the biggest self help people can do is to just take a moment to observe themselves, to see what really, really does the trick for them, to see what really, really makes them happy, what really, really is their own way of life or their own way of thinking. It's always good to better yourselves. I'm not saying that if a book or an influencer or something is giving you something that you really need to put your life back together or to get yourself on that path, oh yeah, definitely go for it. But if just for the sake of trend following you're doing this, then please don't. You're just going to do yourself more harm than good, because you're not actually going to practice whatever it is that you need to. You're not actually going to physically change yourself. You're just doing it for the sake of showing off. That's what I'm trying to say. It becomes against very shallow and superficial. It should hold meaning. It should bring actual change. That's all I'm saying. And if it works, amazing. Well, this is me signing out for the Hafiz.